Florida State and Clemson are suing the ACC. And make really no mistake about it, what they're trying to do is find a way out of the conference. They don't like the revenue sharing. They don't like the way they don't, first of all, they don't like the lack of revenue coming in from the ACC. They don't like the revenue sharing model. They don't like the lack of commitment to football that everybody else in the conference has. So they want out. And I'm not going to sit here and tell you whether that's a good thing, bad thing, or indifferent. I have no comments, thoughts about it. All I know is if they are able to get out, it's going to more than likely end the ACC as you know it. That is something I'll opine on. But they want out so bad that they're suing the ACC. Now, they're trying to make it seem as if they're not suing the ACC because they want out. But ultimately, that is the end goal, is to find a way to get out of the Atlantic Coast Conference. And I know that there is a thought process that the second that they do that, because I think I have this same thought process, the second that they do that, the second that they find a way to get out of the ACC, that they have standing invites to the Big Ten and SEC and have to figure out which conference they're going to choose and what that means for other schools in the conference, who gets left behind, etc. This isn't going to be resolved quickly. There's a really great story from the Tampa Bay Times that went through and looked at the times that schools inside a conference have sued their conference. And to me, there are two really big takeaways. One of them is in the 19 times since 2001 that a school has sued a conference that they are in, all but one of them have been settled. So the likelihood that Florida State and Clemson are going to duke this out in court and get to a trial and get to the judge saying what his or her decision is incredibly unlikely. So at some point, Clemson and Florida State, along with the ACC, are going to have to figure out what a settlement looks like, because the longer it drags out, the worse it looks for Florida State and Clemson and the ACC. Because everybody is standing hand in hand, singing Kumbaya in the sunshine with the rainbows and unicorns and daisies and lollipops until you get in a court battle and it's somebody's got to win and somebody's got to lose. And the mudslinging starts and nobody looks good in that situation. Nobody looks good in that situation because each side is willing to say whatever it takes to win. And so Florida State and Clemson look greedy. And the ACC looks like an oppressor trying to enslave programs that don't want to be in the conference anymore. It's not a good look for anybody. So at some point they have to figure out what an end game looks like and who goes where, who does what, who concedes, who gets what they want and who doesn't, who has to meet in the middle when they don't want to. You often hear that like a good settlement is when neither side is happy. When neither side thinks they got what they wanted, that's generally the best settlements. But on the flip side of that, on the flip side of having to figure out a settlement, generally, these things do not go quickly. Now, there have been some that have been settled in 3 months when the Big East tried to sue West Virginia and Pitt in 2012. It took 3 months before they were like, all right, shut up. And then others have taken 15 months, 18 months. So Florida State and Clemson, while it seems as if that is something that needs to be resolved really quickly, in all likelihood, it's probably not going to be resolved really quickly. And so I think you're going to have plenty of time to consider, think about, decipher what that means for the Big Ten, what it means for the SEC, what it means for the ACC, who goes to a Power 4 conference, or really, truly, after that, a Power 3 conference. Who goes to a Power 3 conference? Who's left behind? Do Syracuse and Boston College and Wake Forest have contingency plans? Does Louisville have a contingency plan? Does Georgia Tech, do Virginia Tech, do they know what they're going to do if you have plenty of time to strategize this? And I think one of the things that is fun to think about is if Florida State and Clemson find a way out of the ACC, you'll be able to see who had a little bit of foresight, who had the ability to admit, like, hey, this might not go great for us in the rest of the conference, because if it goes 15 months, if it goes 18 months, you'll have plenty of time to say, okay, if this, then that. It's really that kind of simple. Make no mistake about it. Florida State and Clemson no longer want to be members of the Atlantic Coast Conference. You don't sue the conference you're in because you're happy, you love it, and you don't want anything to change. You can argue, we're not trying to leave, but we just want equal revenue, blah, blah, blah. They don't. They want to be with the big boys and the Big Ten and the SEC. And getting there, they think the easiest path is through the legal system, which shows you, one, kind of how desperate they are, but two, shows you how difficult the process is and how unfun and messy it's going to be. And despite the longer this goes on, the worse everybody looks, I wouldn't think this is going to be one of those quick ones that's going to be wrapped up anytime soon, which gives us plenty of more time to speculate, discuss, and hypothesize, which is always fun to do. That'll do it for today's episode of the Daily Huddle. Appreciate you making us a part of your day, however it is, wherever it is you're doing so. If you are watching us on YouTube, hit the subscribe button. Make sure you're getting all the great college football content that we're pumping out here on Saturday Glory. If you are listening to the podcast feed, drop a 5-star review. It goes a long way in helping out the channel. I'll see you on Sunday for another episode of the Daily Huddle here on Saturday Glory.